And you're on. Perfect. All right, guys, pay attention.
So my name's Makaela Kries. I'm a detective with the Burlington Police Department. I have been at the department for 3.5 years. I was on patrol, night shift patrol. I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. up until October. And then I started in investigations. So I've been in there for about 6 months or so. And now I'm on day shift. I work 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I would go back to night shift though. I know Mr. Carper worked quite a few years on night shift as well.
It's a great shift.
It is. It's a really good shift. This is just the mission statement of the police department. You don't have to read it. So what types of cases do we investigate? As detectives, we get more the higher level, like felony type cases, including homicide, which is the highest one that we can investigate. We also work assaults, sexual abuse, robbery, burglaries, arsons, the higher level thefts, forgeries. I recently went to homicide school, so a lot of the deaths that come out, whether it's a natural, a suicide, undetermined, I've been getting called out to a lot of the deaths recently, just because I have that experience and I can try to figure out whether or not someone else killed this person. We get called out to overdoses as well, just to investigate where this person got their medication from, their drugs from, so we can try to, I guess, look into who is supplying the drugs that are laced with probably fentanyl, and try to figure out who's responsible for this person's death. If it was an overdose on pills, most likely they got it prescribed to them and it's their own. But that's where I step in and I try to determine that, and then the body obviously goes to an autopsy when it's a suspicious death or a suicide, and then they give us information on the manner of death, which is like a homicide, suicide, natural, undetermined, and also the cause of death, whether it was an overdose, a gunshot wound, stabbing, whatnot. Assaults, that can include like an assault that involved a gun, whether someone was like pistol whipped, we'll get called out for that because it's a higher level crime. If there was just a knife involved, we can get called out for that. Just anything that's a higher level that needs more investigating and more people interviewed, because we have a lot more time we work Monday through Friday and then we get called out at night, but we spend that time doing interviews. We're on patrol. They're going call to call to call. They don't have time to interview 10 individuals for one case. That's what we do because we have the time for it. Sexual abuse, these cases take a lot more time to investigate. It can involve a child and an adult. It can be a 13-year-old on a 13-year-old. It can be anything. We'll investigate that. With sexual abuse cases, if it's anyone under the age of 18, we have to take that victim or possible suspect to the Mississippi Valley Child Protection Center. It's in Muscatine for a forensic interview, because I'm not trained to speak with people under the age of 18, especially in these circumstances. And then depending on what's disclosed in that forensic interview, then I can have the suspect, if they're under the age of 18, interviewed as well, just to see how these behaviors came about for them to do it to another juvenile. Or if it's an adult, I'm allowed to speak with that suspect and figure out what happened, and we can charge them. We also do like child pornography cases along with that sexual abuse topic. That I just got my first one last month, I think. So we have to, it's not very fun, but we have to, investigate and watch these videos that people are watching, and then we talk to them, and it's gross, they're guilty, they're gonna go to jail. It's not fun, but it's part of the job. Robberies, I haven't been able to work one yet, fortunately. But I know there was a big one, I think last year. There was a robbery that was at one of the bars here in town, and I think there was probably like 5 people involved, so detectives had gotten called out for that case, because there's a lot of suspects, there's a lot of information that we needed to get in order to get the charges. Burglaries, we don't really, I mean, we get called out for burglaries when there's a lot of high dollar amount of items that were taken from like a residence, a garage, or wherever it was at. But usually it does stay on patrol, but some have gone up to us. Arson, I have, I think, 2 arson cases right now. One of them is for a house fire. If a house doesn't have any electric or any water hooked up to it, well, that's suspicious. That's why I got called to it. They're one of the harder cases to actually prove and find a suspect and charge, because it was on fire. This house was on fire at one point. There's not much evidence left, and it's hard to determine if there was an accelerant or a gas that was used to set it on fire, because the firemen came in and poured a bunch of water on it, so it kind of washed the gas out. But still, there was no electric to the house, and there's no water. Theft and forgery, I mean, we'll kind of skip those. So when I can get called out at any time of day. So like I said, I work 9 to 5. I can get called out at 6 a.m. And I'll start my day then, or I can get called out even at like 6 p.m. right when I get off. I'll still have to come out. Could be 3 a.m. No matter what, I have to answer my phone, and I'll get called out. And I could get as little information as there's a, let me think of one. We'll just do a death investigation. We have this individual, he's like 40 years old. He's deceased. We don't know if it's a suicide or if he overdosed on something. And that's all I have. That's the only information. So I have to, figure out how am I going to process this house? Do I need the whole entire house? And what am I going to do? Is it a big scene? Are they even in a house, or are they outside, like in a park or in a car, whatever? So we'll start by taking photographs. We have to take overall, we have to get the big picture, and then we'll slowly close in, and then we'll also get like the 4 corners. So I'll come into one corner, take a picture, go in the next corner, take a picture. Those are my overalls. And then I'll slowly work my way into that piece of evidence that I'm trying to collect, or that's just part of the scene. So we'll take the digital photos. We could also take a video of the scene if it's a big one, or whatnot, so that we have that evidence that we can look back on later on. And we also have this machine. We just got it in, I think, October, like right when I started. It's called the Oscar 360. It's this right up here. So it's just a little camera. It's probably about the size of this, a little bigger than this remote. And it has a lens on both sides of it. And it sets on like a tripod like this, and you set it in the middle of the room or the middle of the park, wherever you're trying to take a photo of. And it takes a 360-degree picture, just the tap of one button. So we were told, if you don't want to be in the picture, if you can see the camera, you're in the picture. So you need to hide behind a tree, hide behind a car, hide in the other room, whatever. You can't be in the picture because it's a 360-degree photo. And then with this, it just takes the overall photo. So we still have to document each piece of evidence through, our regular camera. But what's cool with this new system is we can take those smaller photos that we took of each piece of evidence and plug it into this system. So if there's like blood spatter that came up on the ceiling, I can take a picture of that and add it to this 360-degree photo and document, you can, scroll up on the picture and it'll have the sealing, and I can have it documented that there was blood up here, and I can spin the picture and document maybe there was a knife that was found over here. So it's a really cool program that recreates the whole scene without you even having to be there. It was very expensive to get, but it's very nice. We can also do fingerprinting. I will say it's very messy and really hard to collect a fingerprint, but it can be done. I have a little photo down here. It's hard to see, but obviously if you look at your fingerprints or your fingers, there's different types. There's like whirl, loops. So anything you touch, if it's like a non-porous surface, so your desk, if you touch it, you're gonna be able to leave a fingerprint, and it's easier to collect off of that versus like the wall. It's gonna be very hard if you're even gonna collect it at all. But we have like a black powder to use on a light colored surface, so that once you dust the print, you can actually see what you're going to be collecting. And then we have a white powder to collect the fingerprint off of a dark colored surface. So you'll just, it's like this, it's a brush, and you dip it in the powder, and then you like sprinkle it over the fingerprint that you're wanting to collect. And then there's this special kind of tape that we have, and we'll put it over the fingerprint. And this is either the part that's gonna make it or break it. Once you lift the fingerprint up, your dust could just go all over and ruin your print. Or it's still there and you put it on a piece of paper or a card. And then we send that to the state lab, and they can compare it to other fingerprints that are in the system, or they'll add it to the system, and if someone else sends a print in, they can compare it for testing to identify whose print that is. There's casting that we can do as well. I don't know that we actually do it, but it's still an option. You can cast a tire or like a footprint. Here's a picture of a footprint that someone had casted. So when you walk into like dirt or mud or something and you leave a shoe print in the ground, there's this material that you can use to like pour over that print, and then once it dries, you can pull it up, and it's the exact size. It's an exact replica of what that shoe print was. You just have it in physical form, and then it can help you identify if this was a size 14 shoe. I'm not sure that many females wear size 14, so we can help identify if our suspect was a male. If they were wearing a boot, a Nike tennis shoe, you can identify what shoe the person would have been wearing. And then even when you see someone walking on the street, okay, well that shoe matches this one. I kind of want to talk to that individual. Evidence collection. So we will obviously photograph everything, and then we will like timestamp what time we're gonna pick up this piece of evidence, this shell casing, this pack of medicine, whatever, this knife. Everything usually gets put into like a paper bag or like a paper envelope that will be sealed. We'll duct tape it, and then we have a piece of red evidence tape that will get put over that seal, and then we have to initial and date that piece of evidence just to document like the chain of custody. So if that gets tampered with, I can say I sealed, you can see my initials and whatnot. You can tell if someone has opened it. Some of our evidence will get sent to the state lab. We'll send like shell casings to the lab. They can compare it to other shell casings that we have sent in, and if they can figure out what gun it was fired from, we'll send drugs to the state lab. We are involved in some drug cases. We'll send DNA. We can take a buccal swab, which is it looks like a Q-tip, and swab the inside of your mouth to get your DNA and send it to the lab, and they can test and say, I know that DNA belongs to this person. We can send blood swabs. There's quite a bit we can send to the lab as part of our evidence. Who in here has a cell phone? It's gonna get you in trouble if you commit a crime, because we will find it, or we will contact your cell provider and get your location of where you were at, because your cell phone is constantly pinging to different cell towers wherever you're at, because it's waiting for that next text message, that next phone call to come in. It's constantly active, it's tracking you, whether you like it or not. It benefits us when you do something wrong. So we have a program called CellHawk. Detective Jacobson, he knows a lot more about it than I do. He's kind of trained me on it. But we can take your phone provider and we will type a search warrant to collect those records from your phone provider, whether it's like US Cellular or Verizon or T-Mobile, AT&T. And they will send all the information that they have from like the past month, and it'll document like your location. So if, do you have like a pointer? Oh, there it is. If the crime scene that we're investigating was, we'll say like right in here, your phone records show that you were in this general area because your phone was hitting off these towers. So that's when I go to interview you and you tell me that, no, you were over here at home at that time, I can say, no, I have evidence against you. I can prove that you were in this area at this time. Now what? You don't have anything. We also have Cellbrite. I have been trained on Cellbrite. It's, again, with your phone. I can either get consent from you or your parents to search your phone and then use Cellbrite, or I can take your phone and then get a search warrant for me to search it. But it's a system. This is the UFED Touch, so it's just like a little tablet, or we can have it on an actual desktop computer. But basically, you hook up a cell phone on one side of the program, and then you have a flash drive or like a hard drive on the other side, and we call it like, I'm gonna dump a phone. It basically duplicates everything that's on that phone and puts it on a hard drive, so that we can return your phone a lot faster. And I still have all the evidence on this hard drive that I can go through and see all your text messages, your Snapchats, your Facebook Messenger, Instagram, whatever, your photos. Yeah, all your photos that you've sent, you've tried to delete, it's still on there. And it's all time-stamped, so I know when you took this photo, whether or not it's related to my case or not. So search warrants, we do quite a bit of search warrants. When do you need a search warrant? It's best practice to just get a search warrant, because that judge gave me permission and said that I have enough probable cause to search whatever it may be. So later on when I go to court, the judge told me I had enough to search whatever it might be. If I just got consent to search someone's house, they could take that back at any time, and they can also go to court and say, well, no, I didn't, because people do lie. No, I didn't give you permission. Well, yeah, you did. Well, I don't have anything. So you might as well just get a search warrant. It takes an extra maybe hour, depending on how much experience you have with them. But like I said, the search warrant gives you permission from the judge to search anything. It could be even just to collect DNA from someone. If that person tells me, no, I'm not gonna give you, I'm not gonna let you swab the inside of my mouth. Well, the judge said I can, so open up. I'm gonna get it, whether I have to pry your mouth open or you just open it on your own. Can get a search warrant to search a house to collect whatever the evidence might be. Interviews, we do a lot of interviews and interrogations. Majority of our interviews, it can be with the suspect too. We don't read Miranda, we don't have to. If that person is free to leave, they're not under arrest, I don't have to read you your Miranda warning. It's different if the person was in handcuffs, they were brought to the police department in a squad car, and they're under the impression they can't leave because they can't. then I do have to read them their Miranda rights. So they made this little equation. It's if there's custody plus interrogation, it equals Miranda. They could even be like detained. You don't have to be in handcuffs to be in custody or detained. As long as you're told you're not free to leave, you're technically in custody. And before I can question you about that, whatever the incident might be, I do have to read you your Miranda rights, and that's when a lot of people will close down. Or they'll say, yes, I do want to talk, because they want to know what I know. They want to know if I know that there was this gun hidden behind the bush. Have I got that yet, or did their buddy get it before we did? Case files. So our case files, depending on what the case is, it can be pretty thick, and we have to move it from just a folder to a binder. But it will include like our initial call for service. So when the first person had called into dispatch to file a report, and then it'll have the patrol officer's reports, and then it made its way up to us as detectives, and then we'll do our reports. We'll include all of our search warrants that have been done, any evidence that was collected. That includes like digital photos as part of evidence that we took, interview videos, the knife, the piece of blood, or the blood that was sent to the lab, whatever. That's all included. And then the arrest that was made. That way it's all put together, so when we do go to court, everything is organized. We know what we're doing. We can prove this case, and we can get a conviction on that. Does anyone have any questions?
They should have a lot of questions.
At least 4 of them.
What was the hiring process?
The hiring process. So first you have to start with a physical. So you have to do a 1.5 mile run, push-ups and sit-ups. They used to do a sit and reach, but they took that out right before I tested. But depending on your age, it depends on like how fast you have to run or how many push-ups and sit-ups you have to do. So once you pass that physical portion, then on that same day, about an hour later, you do a written test, which it includes like math, reading, grammar, stuff like that. And you have to pass that. I'm not sure what the minimum score is that you have to get. So once you pass both the physical and written, then there is an interview that you do with some of the command officers on the department. You have to get a score of like 60 out of 100. And once you pass that, you move on to like the background investigation, which includes like I'm doing one right now. You have 3 references that you can put down, that 3 people that are going to talk good about you. And then we go to your neighborhood, and we will talk to your neighbors. Are you one to, argue with your husband all the time? Is your yard trashy? Are you a quiet, friendly neighbor? And then we'll talk to your past relationships, whether it was your boyfriend or girlfriend. We'll have to talk to them too, see, what happened. Talk to anyone in your family, and then your past employers. If you've been fired, why have you been fired? Why did you quit this job to go to this one? So it's a pretty extensive background check. And then they can move on to the polygraph, and they have to be completely honest in that, because otherwise it's going to tell you if they're showing signs of deception. I would say that's one. If someone has made it to the background investigation, if they're going to get tossed out of the off the list, probably because of their polygraph, because they had lied about something before, and now that they're hooked up, they're nervous because they forgot to mention this. A lot of times I feel like it's with their drug use. People have to admit what their drug use was. And then there's the MMPI. It is a psychological test. It's like 500 questions, and a lot of them are the same thing, just reworded. I remember one of the questions was something about do you like this certain type of flower, or something about the work of a librarian, would you want to do the work of a librarian? It was just really weird questions, and it's I don't know what to answer, because am I gonna pass or not? So after the MMPI, if you pass that, you've been given a conditional offer, so as long as you pass another medical physical at the hospital and another physical later on down the road, then you're hired. So then there's physical at the hospital. You do have like a lung test, a hearing test, just your everyday like physical checkup. And then when you pass that, there's another testing that you have to do the physical, so a 1.5 mile run, sit-ups and push-ups. That's usually held at Iowa State University. As long as you pass that, the academy is usually in about 2 weeks, and then you start the academy. It's 16 weeks long, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, come home on the weekends. And then once you get done with your 16 weeks, you start the field training process at the police department. And that's, I think, like 3 to 4 months. There's 4 different steps. So step 1, you're supposed to do about 25% of the work. Step 2, it's about 50%. Step 3 is 75%. Step 4, it's 100%. Your training officer doesn't help. Obviously, unless it's a life or death situation or you're putting yourself in harm, then they are gonna step in. And after you're done with field training, then you're on your own and you have fun. Is it another one on the list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, why did you get into this career and how has it affected your family life?
I've always been interested in law enforcement. I remember in like 8th grade, we had to write a letter to ourselves. And I remember in that letter, it had like, I hope you're, in law enforcement now. So ever since like at least middle school, I've just always been interested in it. It's just a good adrenaline rush, the thrill. It's always something new. How has it affected my family? I don't really know. They either support me or they don't, and my family does support me. I live on my own. My parents just are there when I need them. I will say I do have an 8-year-old nephew. He's really interested in police and handcuffs and lights and sirens. So I know that my job has affected him, and he really likes it. What's the next one on the list? Okay. Does anyone have any other questions not related to what you guys have to ask?
So you took a little interesting path, how you got here, Burlington PD, could you tell me about that?
So I went to Notre Dame. I graduated in 2016, and then I went to SEC for 2 years. I took criminal justice classes so I could get a bunch of the simple ones out of the way. Once I graduated there in 2018, I went to Western Illinois. Well, skip that, or before that. At SEC, I took a class. It was an internship at the sheriff's office. It was kind of just to fill my schedule, but also get experience. So I rode on patrol with some of the deputies, and then I also was at the jail for about a month learning, everything that happens in the jail. And then I graduated SEC and went to Western Illinois, where I majored in law enforcement. And then I also studied psychology and criminology. And while I was at Western, your final semester there, they make you do an internship. So I did an internship with Burlington Police Department because I had been in the Explorers program, and I knew I wanted to start my career at Burlington. I kind of already had my foot in the door and knew kind of how the department ran. So my internship was from like January to May. It was a lot longer. I rode on patrol, night shift, day shift. I worked with the detectives. Went out on search warrants. Those are really fun, especially the drug ones. And then once I graduated from Western, that was in May of 2020. I had applied for Burlington in August, and then I got hired in December. So I kind of already had some background work done at 2 internships, and then the Explorers program. I already had my foot in the door and was able to get a position pretty quick. And it's also helped me advance my career in 3 years. A lot of detectives you don't really start as a detective until I would say like 5 to 10 years on. We are a young department now, so 3 years is, I would say it's somewhat normal, but not really.
So can you tell me about the Explore program?
Yeah, so we have, it's called the Police Explorers Program. I know the fire department has one too. But we kind of introduce you to all the different tasks that we do. We've done like practice traffic stops, how you even approach a car or figure out why you're even going to stop this car, and how you're going to conduct your traffic stop. Building searches, kind of just everything that you have to process and go through your head on how you're going to search a building. Does someone have a gun? So now you're on high alert. And what are you even searching for? We practice that. Practicing just handcuffing techniques. I don't know, what else did we do, Marty? It's just kind of like learning how to.
You have to come to so many certain meetings, and after that you can do ride-alongs.
Yeah, but I think it's like 4 meetings or something. If you come to 3 or 4 meetings in a row, then you can start doing ride-alongs, and you can pick your shift. It's like 4-hour ride-alongs.
You got the dog on too.
Yeah, we have like a K9 demonstration. I saw Officer Beckman will be coming out. We have 2 K9s now. And the sheriff's office actually has 2, and so does West Burlington. So we have a total of 5 K9s in Des Moines County, so watch out if you're doing anything bad. You can be in the program if you're, I think, in 8th grade or going into 8th grade up to 21. So I was in the program my senior year of high school until I turned 21. We kind of started the program back up, but then over the holidays we kind of lost it. So I would like to get it started back up. I am one of the advisors again this year. So if anyone's interested, I can leave my email. You can reach out to me too.
Before you leave, you just put out the word there.
Yeah.
So it's something really cool that if you're interested in law enforcement to get into, guys, is that Explore program, because it will really teach you a good understanding of what it does.
And like if you're interested in it, like kind of think it'll be cool and you do this program, it could either let you know like, yeah, this is something you want to do when you're older, or no, I think I want to go a different route of a first responder or whatnot.
Then you can go to the fire department.
Yeah, and then you can go to the fire department and you work 24 hours on, 48 hours off, but you usually are asleep by 9 or 10 o'clock until 8 a.m. the next day when you get off. Or you can also get called out in the middle of your sleep for like a lift assist, a fire, a shooting.
But that's the fun part, right?
It is, that's the adrenaline rush that
So,
you get.
I just have to point out, who is the real heroes though?
Huh?
Who are the real heroes?
I can say when I get to a fire scene, it's fun, but all I'm doing is making sure the house is empty, and then I just stand by and watch.
That tone will definitely wake you up. You don't have to set an alarm on your
Yeah.
phone. It'll wake you up.
It's fun though, because
If
we,
you guys haven't figured out, Marty's been through both programs.
yeah, we respond to medical calls as well. We get basic first aid, CPR trainings, because we're usually racing to get to the scene while they're still at the fire department waking up and getting their gear on so they can get in the ambulance to come out.
I've actually been on a ride along with her. It was actually really fun. It was a great night.
I don't think you ever rode with me, so it could have been that great a night.
You know, I think, didn't you do day shift for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't, because I would do mine at night.
We was probably in the schools when you were
Probably.
in the program
You
too.
rode with me a couple times.
Yeah, during my internship and even the Explorers, I rode with Harper quite a bit. He was on D squad and that was the fun squad because it was a lot of the younger guys who, you know, recently started their careers and they are very proactive, which was really awesome. A lot of experience from that.
We kept busy.
Yes.
Kept very busy. Guys, you don't have anything else to ask her about what's your favorite crime to investigate maybe?
What's your favorite kind of thing to investigate?
So I guess a goal of mine has always been a homicide detective, so I really like investigating deaths. Just trying to give closure to the family on why this their loved one, you know, passed away, whether it was something good that they wanna hear or something bad that no one wants to hear your loved one was using drugs or was involved, in gangs or whatever. But I would say deaths.
What's your least
Unfortunately.
favorite one?
Sex assaults. It's just really, it's hard to hear someone say what they've gone through and, hear that a 4-year-old was assaulted by like a 60-year-old, or whether it was their grandpa or just a random person. That's hard to hear. But then I will say it's nice being able to charge that person and say like, you've ruined someone's life, so this is what you get.
Yeah.
So you say you miss nights?
What was that?
You miss nights?
I do. I miss patrol. I was, right before I started as a detective, I was really loving working on the streets and, you know, at 2 a.m. just seeing someone walking on the sidewalk, just go up and talk to them. You know, they're homeless. They probably use meth because they're homeless and that's who they associate themselves with. But just getting their story on how they became homeless. I know one of the guys I had talked to, he had gotten a divorce, so he was restarting his life, but he doesn't have any money because he doesn't have a job. He just moved to Burlington. So he's on the streets and he's just trying to live. He has a backpack that has everything he has on and like a winter coat and a pair of boots and, you know, basic clothes. But I really enjoyed hearing the people's story. I would always be driving around in the middle of the night. I do miss that part.
And the nice thing was you stop and talk to them, that's a positive contact for that person.
Yeah,
And they now have an understanding that police do care.
yeah. That same guy, he had gotten robbed, I would say last year, in probably October-ish. And I actually got to help investigate that case, but there wasn't much evidence that I was able to gather. But it was cool being able to actually work with him, because he already knew me, so it's kind of easier to work with someone because you already have that interaction.
Can you tell these guys about like the dynamic of like the family aspect of law enforcement? Something a lot of people don't ever touch on. About
Like-
how everybody becomes sort of extended family.
Yeah, you go into law enforcement with some friends, or I guess a lot of friends, whether it was from high school or just from other jobs you've had. And then you get into law enforcement and they either support you or they don't, so you could lose quite a bit of friends, or they stay there. But then you just become like really good friends and family with the people you work with at the police department, because you're around them for 12 hours a day, a lot of hours too. And you just get like really close with them. There's usually like 5 other officers working with you. You might go out for drinks after. You can actually relate to them. They understand, what you just went through on your shift, how hard it was, or you can just kind of make jokes like, hey, we just did this, like I can't believe I just saved that guy's life. They just actually understand what this job's about and like mentally what everyone just did, and you just become close with them. I know there's a group of us that we go on like family vacations now in the summer. We'll go to spend a weekend at Lake of the Ozarks, just because we're that close now.
You literally become family members with these
Yeah.
people. They know your whole family. It's really a neat aspect of it.
And it's even like the brand new officers all the way up to like the chief or the majors, lieutenants. Like, I know my lieutenant, his mother-in-law lives down the street from me, so he knows, where I live. He's always like, hey, I saw you mow your yard today. How's your mom doing? How's your dad doing? Oh, your mom just brought this down. Like they know everything about you. You know everything about their family too. I could see my lieutenant's wife at the grocery store, and I'll go up and say hey to her and see how things are going. It's really cool. Like it is, they say there's a thin blue line family. There really is. Like your other officers and their families are your family too.
You know that they're always there for you no matter what.
Yeah.
They have your back.
Like I see Mr. Carper in Aldi sometimes and I'll stop and talk with him because I know him. Even though he's retired now, but he was in the career for how many years?
28.
How
And
many?
she knows
Part of
that
you.
You also know that if you needed to call me for anything, I'd answer the phone anytime.
And even like officers in other states too, like you go to these trainings with, out-of-state officers and, you get their contact information and you can reach out to them at any time, like, they go through the same stuff that Iowa officers go through.
And they'll bend over backwards to help you.
Yeah.
How many women are
I think there's 4 or 5.
plus you?
Yeah. There's Sergeant Smith, Officer Crabb, myself, Officer Kleindens, and Officer Weatherwax. Yeah, there's 5 of us. So there's not many female officers either. So my friends are guys. They're all guys. There is another female detective, so it's nice to actually work with another girl. We don't have to hear all the crunchy guys' stories and, what they did and.
As a female officer, do you think that you have different things you can bring to the table as a guy?
Yeah, I would say I'm able to talk with people, talk someone out of a situation or whatnot. A lot of the guys are wanting to do hands-on, like, no, let's fight this person. I'm like, well, first, why don't we talk to the person and see if they'll just voluntarily come out or put their hands behind their back? Why are we just always trying to wrestle someone? Now, I am always down to wrestle with someone and, go hands-on, but why don't we just try to talk with them first before we actually get injured with them?
What's it?
Have you?
What was that?
Have you actually gotten into a fight?
Have I gotten into a fight?
Yeah.
I would say one of the more worse ones I've been in was last year or maybe a couple years ago now. This guy, he was I think 21 or 22. He was very, very high. He had stole a car, drove it through the Cascade Bridge fences, crashed it, then was wandering around town all night long. He was very high. He had you might eventually, when you're older, hear about meth strength. He was very strong because he was on drugs. One of the other officers ended up finding him. I was about a block away. That guy took off on foot, running. The officer Krillman, he ended up tasing the guy. I got on scene to where they were at. I didn't know at the time that Officer Krillman had already been punched in the face. So I get on scene, we're wrestling with this guy. He was really strong for only 22 and he was just so high. It seems like forever when you're in a fight. It might be 2 minutes, but it feels like 20 minutes. You're just waiting to hear sirens and lights come for people helping you out. But we wrestled with him for quite a bit. He tried to take my gun. Like I said, he punched Officer Krillman. He resisted quite a bit. But we ended up getting him in handcuffs and out to the jail. He had to sit in a restraint chair for quite a few hours because he was so crazy. He's in prison now, not because of that, from other stuff, because he never changed his ways. I would say that was one of the more worst ones that I've been in. But it's fun. Now I'm okay, let's go again.
So then, so I live down the street from the chief,
Okay.
okay? And he has an unmarked car.
Mhm.
So then do detectives have unmarked cars too?
Yep,
Or,
so there's, I think two of the lieutenants have an unmarked car. It's just like your everyday car that you see. The only difference is there's some lights and sirens in it. All the detectives have an unmarked car and then the chief does too. But yeah, it just looks like an everyday vehicle. You can't really tell the difference. Unless you look close, you can see lights in the front and lights in the back. But they're inside of the car.
Guys, we got any more questions for her?
Does anyone want to be a police officer or detective? No one?
I don't, but I want to be in like the law in general.
Okay. Like probation, parole stuff?
I want to be like a type of lawyer. Type
A lawyer? Okay.
Yeah, we had a good talk about that yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah.
Have fun as long as you're able to argue, but it's going to be a lot of schooling.
I know.
But it's good. We need more lawyers. So you could be a county attorney. You could be on our side.
He's talking like
I
divorce.
want to be a divorce.
Oh, divorce?
He's going
Okay.
where the money is.
Yeah. People are always getting divorced.
Yeah, that's why.
And there's always problems, so then they have to, hire another lawyer like multiple times.
Either that, I want to be like a real estate lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely the money. All right, guys, let's give it up for.